I'm so excited to have my friend Stacy Igel here, the founder of Boy Meets Girl and the author of the amazing book, Embracing the Calm in the Chaos, which is so me. I think we have just bonded over the title with just how much we have going on. I mean, look at the chaos that I have down.
What about the chaos of my nails?
Yes, falling.
It fell off because I did the dip and then I had to paint it before I came. It's my middle finger.
Yes, there we go. Very on brand. And look, I'm just a hot mess.
Oh, I thought that was a tattoo.
No, it isn't.
That's cool.
No, that's not a tattoo, but this one and this one is. And all the other
ones
I have.
Which one is this one? I didn't see this.
This one says rest in him. Just a reminder to rest.
To embrace
because
the
I
chaos.
need to remind myself to chill out.
It's, a lot of people have told me they just look at the title and then just breathe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really an amazing piece to it.
It is.
Because you're a 3-time author.
I'm a 3-time author, yep.
Titles are an interesting place to come up with. And I actually had a different title.
Okay.
And this was a chapter in the book, but we went through, I'm basically leading this conversation.
Yes, I know. I want you to. This is your show, Stacey.
You didn't even ask me a question.
I want to hear, though. This is I'm trying to get into your brain of what this is all about.
Well, so HarperCollins is my publisher, and which took a long time to get, and we'll get there.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about the process, but they went through 3 different titles, and they did a forum, like an old school forum, where people voted on the titles. And one of my titles was "What Did You Do That For?" which I talk about in the book. The other was "Own Your Own Runway," and the third was "Embracing the Calm and the Chaos." I looked back at all these journal entries where I would have drawings that it said "Embracing the Calm and the Chaos," or "Chaotic Situations," or "Chaos," and "Get help," or all these crazy things that I was drawing and doing with my line and journaling throughout my whole career, and 90% of the people said "Embracing the Calm and the Chaos." And the time that came out was during COVID. And so my publisher or my editor said, this is going to be something that people need for a long time. The fact that resonated with all these people, as much as I wanted "What'd you do that for?" which is a little bit more negative connotation. Right. But the "Embracing the Calm and the Chaos" is really my life and how I get through things. And so it made perfect sense. And that was also as a creative, to someone say, well, I think we're going to go with something else that you didn't think of, or it wasn't what you initially wanted. Are you okay with that? And I really was, because as a creator, I hadn't created a book yet, and I wanted the best of the best to tell me how to do it. Yeah, I didn't have any ego in the title. So that's how that actually came.
That's so good. I want you to share a little bit about your brand, but I have a question on that too.
Yeah.
Because I do book coaching and book strategy, right? So I'll coach people on writing the best book for their business, right? And so many people come to me with a book idea already in mind, and I say, okay, well, what's the end goal for what you want with your book, right?
Yes.
And that stops them dead in their tracks, because you don't know, they might have, let's say I own a dental company, okay? And my goal is to teach kids how to brush their teeth. So I'm going to write a book on how to teach kids how to brush their teeth. But then the goal for my book is to go to dental conventions and teach dentists how to run their businesses correctly.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So why would you write a book that you want to sell at a dental convention where you want to be speaking about this topic? Why would you write a book geared to kids brushing their teeth? It just doesn't make sense, right? So to say that you have this idea and then you give people, even though you're creative, liberty to say, you know what's best. And I think as people who are business owners, that's hard for us sometimes let go of what we think should be done.
That's right.
I think that's a really good point to if you decide to go with a traditional publisher or to get a book coach, to listen to them.
I completely agree. You're coming to that place for a reason, right? There's a lot of people who now come to me. Should I self-publish? Should I get an agent? Should I, go try to sell to a publisher? And it really is about what kind of control you want.
Right.
If you want that team behind you to really guide you, but also it's your idea, but be open to the
suggestions,
the changes. Yeah. And it comes with, especially, a big publisher, having a lot of editors, changing a little bit of how maybe you first thought how it would go, which has been for me a really great piece to the book, a lot of the changes that came. So for me, just to answer your question, why did I write this book? This was in me since I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
I was journaling. I have thousands and thousands of journals, but mostly during building my brand, which has been around for 24 years, I journaled from the day I started.
Mm-hmm.
And just really to get me through many scenarios, finding partners, legal issues with IP, or finding the right lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
finding collaborators, finding partners, hiring, firing, being an employer at the age of 23, 24. What does that mean? So all these things were happening throughout my career. I was being asked to speak entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started building these classes, well, not really classes, but it is called Boy Meets Girl University, where students would come to us and we teach them behind the scenes of fashion
Mm-hmm.
and how to find manufacturers and how to find partners and what it's like to be in business and how to find press and
Mm-hmm.
all the really nuts and bolts of building. And then I would do that for the Lower East Side Girls Club. And so this just, was in me to help other people and the future. And so this book, during COVID, I wasn't traveling around the world.
Right.
I wasn't doing 10 trade shows a year. I was homeschooling and running a business and decided, okay, it's time to write my book.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect time. What else do we have to do?
Right? Let's add some more layers. And it really was my time to go through all these journals, all, my old archives, and really sift through the building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I really wanted entrepreneurs to understand that they can do it.
Yeah. I love that.
And it's hard.
It is.
As you know.
It's hard and it's chaotic.
And it's crazy.
But if you can find the ability to find that calm or that peace, and I think it comes from within.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That you can withstand all of the storms and the hiring and the firing and the money stuff and everything that comes along with entrepreneurship.
I definitely you need a few people to listen to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to also be really strong in your process and your thinking, and know that there are hiccups every day.
Yep.
And running a business is 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take it in different steps and look back and breathe a little and write it down and plan quarterly, and there's different things I talk about throughout the book, and having friends who really believe in your journey, because it's sometimes I say it's like a solo journey to be an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, to be your own boss.
Yep.
There's not many people who understand what it's like, especially a young woman in business surrounded by lots of men,
Mm-hmm.
especially in my business, what it's like. And so if you have, I've met more now in my 40s, like-minded women and men who I can have these conversations with
Mm-hmm.
now that I don't know if I had during the journey.
Right.
But there would be one person who might have seen me.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about her in my book where she saw me in that boardroom. She's like, I'm going to work with you.
Yeah.
And it was the first female big industry leader who just saw me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, sometimes you just need one person.
And I think you kind of touched on something too, the loneliness that can happen in entrepreneurism,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people don't understand the hustle that it takes to get us to the places where we want to be.
Yes.
And that inner drive of we have a goal and we know what it's going to take us to get there.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have to leave some people behind that are pulling us down, and that's
right.
hard.
That's really hard.
It's really hard.
And the drive is really interesting too. It's we get to, I think probably for you, it's you got on one TV show
Mm-hmm.
and you were doing a segment, right? And that's a milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was selling those shirts out of my rolling bag in the Lower East Side, and then, so that's 10 shirts and
Mm-hmm.
you're on this, maybe smaller show, but we celebrate it. And then we get to that next level and we're like, okay, I did this trade show, 15 stores found me, and I got to produce this stuff, and you get a bigger segment, and you have to pull in the pieces and the people, and you do it because it's the same kind of moment and feeling of that first time,
Mm-hmm.
but a bigger piece of it. And then it gets even bigger, and then you're celebrating, you're like, oh my God, I made it to this, and it's just but each step for me is I'm always thank you.
Yes.
And I literally remember that first store in the Lower East Side. My husband, who was my boyfriend, I was like, wait outside over there. I'm going to roll in. And it was a Vespa store.
Mm-hmm.
And around him had all the vintage stores down in the Lower East Side, and which I used to shop in all the time. And he had no clothing or no bags. And I did bags and shirts back then. And he was like, well, why do I need this in my shirt, in my store? And I was like, if you hang the bags and the shirts on your Vespas, you'll be aligned with the stores in your row.
Oh.
And he's like, brilliant. And so he was a Vespa store who sold my clothing. Wow. You know, and it's just like, that's how I've always thought outside the box. I'm like, I got that Vespa store.
So let's talk about your clothing real quick, because I introed you, with your clothing brand. Yes. So you're a designer.
Yes.
And you own an amazing clothing brand that is like world known. You've been featured in some of the largest publications. And I mean, talk to us a little bit about that, because we see where you are now, but you started, 25 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
As an early 20-year-old or 18-year-old.
23.
Hawking bags outside of Vespa stores.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even all over college too.
Yeah.
So I started my brand in 2001. We're a global impact brand, and what does that mean is the first week I was supposed to, of actually leaving my 401k job at Izod, started a freelance design and decided to really showcase this collection that I got into a show called the Workshop Show at the Chelsea Market. Mm-hmm. Then that week 9/11 happened. For me, we as young 20-year-olds who had all just moved, I was from Chicago, went to school at University of Wisconsin, worked at Izod and Ali Tahari, and, was young in the business and in New York, and we just were like, how do we help? Mm-hmm. Like, who can we go? Where do we go? What do we need to bring? We had friends. I had friends who had siblings who had lost, their siblings. And it was just, it was just a time of, there is no trade show. There is no selling product right now. This is like hands on deck and let's help each other.
Right.
And, time went on and they said they were going to continue to do the show like a few weeks later, like 2 weeks later. And for me, I'm the first in my family ever to be in fashion. I have lots of people who are in more, doctors and writers and lawyers and people who are in, nurses, not in this space. But I thought to myself, I always wanted to be in fashion. And so that this collection would be donated to the American Red Cross and victims of 9/11 and their families, and that's how I would lead. Mm-hmm. So we look at brands today that are impact brands and give back brands, and it was something that I knew I always wanted to do with the brand. I knew I would do something with breast cancer, but I didn't think at that very first show I would be an impact brand. What's crazy is about that particular show is that I had a ribbon line called the Ribbon Cinch. And I had Americana and Star ribbons that were cinched at your from high point shoulder to your center breast. And then I had my Boy Meets Girl streetwear, and then I had these flowy hippie tops. And, remember, this is first trade show, first
It
braid.
Sounds so fun, though.
Oh, God, if I could turn back time. I mean, you can see it on TikTok now. Everyone's doing it, but I didn't have it then.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, oh, I did that. And you're selling it. Yeah. I'm like, oh, my God. So I ended up showing that collection, and it was probably the hottest booth sales, like trade show that I've ever had in my career.
Wow. Because
I had Americana product and like these ribbons and it was donated back to American. It's crazy to think like a terrorist attack had happened.
Right.
And then I continued to go into business when lots of people lost their lives, lost their businesses, and I'm going into business. But that show was like the most beautiful show because buyers were coming out in the droves from Europe, from America, because they wanted to support New York City. Mm-hmm. It was like such a eerie but special time because we wanted to get New York up and running again and be like together. Yeah. And that's what that show was. And then I was like this happening show, and my first buyer at that show, and my first buyer who is in my book, who is now the head of Saks, was Tracy Margulis, who was at Bergdorf Goodman. Mm-hmm. And they all sat down. I was in the bathroom. My mom was working the booth with an FIT intern who was a model. And she's like, where are you guys from? And they're like, Bergdorf Goodman. man, because they all had their things turned around. Like back then, it was like you didn't tell where you're from.
Right.
And my mom was freaking out. She lives in Chicago at the time, but had been in New York in her early like 20s and knew Bergdorf Goodman, her 30s, because my sister was born here. But anyway, I'm like all over the place. But I came back. She's like, it's Bergdorf Goodman. It's Bergdorf Goodman. I'm like, and I had been there, but I never shopped there because I, again, was a vintage thrifter and in college and like came out like, you know, designing for other people and not any money to spend on things.
Right.
So I was like, okay. And she was like, it's Bergdorf Goodman. And I'm like, okay, Mom, okay. Calm down.
Aren't they our biggest fans all the time, our parents?
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, except for she did like 100 trade shows with me. She's like, I'm done with this one. Atlanta was where it ended. She was like, do not like being across from free people.
Oh, yes.
I was like much smaller and they were rocking and rolling. And that was years later.
Oh,
but
my
yeah, she was like, see ya, no more.
No more.
It's too hard. But that show she loved. And then they bought all my deliveries. Wow. And Bergdorf Goodman put me on the map.
That's amazing.
And it was like this, all of a sudden I added up my orders that night, you know, like we didn't really have like all these computer systems we have now. And it was like $16,000. Wow. I'm like, FIT intern, you're hired. Mom, you're going to need to come to the factories with me.
Yeah.
And
then
like,
that was it.
There you go.
And then tell us some of the places that this business has taken you.
Well, where am I going in March?
Where are you going in March?
I'll tell you where I'm going in the future and where it's taken me. I'm actually going to Barcelona, Germany, and Italy. And 7 years ago today, I have a post that I'm in London because I came from Paris to London, and I'll tell you about my Paris trip. And I said, the hustle is here. I literally just saw this post. My dad was like my bodyguard. He's coming on the next trip with me too, and which is pretty amazing. And I was like, I'm just here to like keep building the dream, like keep building my empire. And I haven't been back since 2017 because of COVID to Europe for business. So I'm really excited.
Oh, that's so exciting.
That is really exciting.
And some of the publications you've been in.
Yeah, so like, publications have ranged from Vogue Business to Women's Wear Daily, New York Times, Elle, Teen Vogue, 17, Wall Street Journal. I mean, you name it.
You've been in it.
I've been in it.
That's amazing.
You name a store, I've been in it. You name a specialty store, I've been in it. You name a bookstore, no, just kidding.
You name a bookstore. Yay! No, so this is funny, and I just saw this too, that your book was on Drew Barrymore, which is
it's amazing. Yeah,
every author's dream, I think, to be featured. You know, to have your book featured on Drew, or you know, in my case, I had like the Today Show did like a 2-segment spread of my show. It was like a 17-minute long segment about my book.
That
it was like amazing.
Were you on it?
Yeah. No, I was on it. It was like, because I did a documentary. Okay. This is kind of one of the things, I actually haven't talked about this on an episode yet, that a lot of people do book trailers, right?
Yes.
And I thought, so my previous career was in personal finance. I was like a frugal living expert, right? That's what some of my TV has been in personal finance, and my books were on personal finance. My fourth book is coming out in January. Woohoo! And that's called Write a Book, Build a Brand.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's about like the strategy and all of that behind writing a book and building a brand.
Perfect.
But so my book was called The Recovering Spender. And I thought, you know, instead of doing like a traditional book trailer, I'm going to do a documentary. And so I found a family, and I went to Cincinnati, Ohio. Bridget. Hi, Bridget, if you're watching. I absolutely loved her and her husband, Andy. And I went out there. I hired a documentary crew. And I did a documentary instead of a book trailer.
I love that.
And I helped them for 3 months get Bridget's spending under control. And we helped them get out of debt in 3 months and get them on the path.
Chills.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So Bridget came on the Today Show with me, and we did like a whole 2-part segment, and to bring her on the show, and we're still in communication, and she paid off all of her debt.
How's she doing today?
She's doing amazing still. Yeah.
That is amazing.
She's doing amazing.
That's really out of the box.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, you just you have to think differently.
You have to think different. Everybody's doing the same thing. So how can you take your book and switch things up a little bit? Right? And I'm a visionary.
Yeah.
You're creative. I'm a visionary.
And visionary. And you see it and you want to bring it
I'm like, how can we make this different? How can we make it stand out? How can we strategize this to make it bigger.
Yes.
So let's talk about the book.
Okay.
Let's talk about the strategy behind the book and the brand, and how did you, because you talk a lot about the brand in the book.
Yes, I do.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, it talks about walking you through the highs and the lows of creating a business, which I love, because I think everybody sees the highlight reel.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we all talk about that. But HarperCollins, it's a big deal, one of the top 5, right? Everybody has a dream. My last book was with Hachette. That was a dream for me.
Great publisher.
Everybody wants the book deal, but it's hard to get the book deal.
It's hard to get
the one of these ones.
Yes.
So how did you get that?
So 7 years prior to wanting to write the book, I went to my ghostwriter, Emily Liebert, who I really love. She's an author, fiction writer. And I said, I want to write a book. And she said, you need to do these things 7 years prior to writing the book. And she said, you need, if you want, get an agent. You need to, figure out your proposal, and then we'll work with the proposal and, make your marketing deck. And I was like, I'm leaving for Paris and I am traveling and I'm going into a 7-year licensing deal in Finland with the biggest retailer. Nope, don't have the time.
Yep.
So I shoved that to the side. And 7 years to that date, when I decided I'm going to write this, I emailed her and I said, I'm ready to write my book. She said, okay, I'm available in February. So that was December 2020. And she said, but you need, if you want to do it the way she and I always thought was right for me, because again, for myself, and this is not everybody's way, and I say that, is that I had built something for 24 years. I wanted to have an agent. I wanted to have the best behind me in publishing. That's what I want. I know there's tons of amazing authors who self-publish, who don't have an agent, and I'm not saying that's my way is the right way. That's just what I wanted.
Yeah.
So with her, she was like, let's find you an agent. Maybe it's my agent, but I have another great agent I think would be, I've always wanted to work with. Maybe let me put you on Zoom. So everything was Zoom, obviously, because of COVID. So her agent wasn't the right agent for me. And I went on Zoom with Kristen Newhouse, my agent. And she was like, this is, your time is now. Like, I'm looking for a woman-founded business who has been doing impact for 20 years. So from that first show, New York workshop show that I did and went out with impact, I led my life with impact, over $1 million to nonprofits, from Human Rights Watch to anti-bullying to breast cancer to American Red Cross to many, many organizations. So just to take you from where I started to what I had to lead with for myself to be in business, to be in fashion. So she was like, okay. She's like, and she has like Trevor Noah and all these amazing people. And I'm like, oh my God. So that was my, first step. And then, just like Emily had said, like, we have to write the proposal. Let's write the proposal. What are your chapter names? This is how she guided me. Who's going to be in it. I always, in my writing, in my journal entries, I always had like, I really want advice from this person. I want to tell their story. They've helped me. And in the book, I share 33 people on my journey. And I have quotes from them, but then I have 16 not interstitial because they were supposed to be, 16 chapters at the back of the book that are interviews with those people. So Tracy Margulis from Saks, like Baron Holt's my best friend who's an actor. Meredith Weintraub is, has a quote in it. Cassandra Jones, who runs Target. Like all these people who like put me on the map, or my friend along the way who were on the same journey with me, like Rosaria Dawson, like who dragged me into Lower East Side Girls Club and said, you're going to work with them. And then I've worked with her and helped guide her in her business, Studio 189. And she's been a great celebrity behind my business and coming to my shows, and just like, but I wanted to showcase, how did she start her journey? And through the eyes of actually being a real friend. So we shaped that, and then it took like 3 months to write that proposal. And then in May, which is my birthday month, I went on those Zoom interviews, and my agent was like, here's a few ones that are wanting to see you. So there is, some of the top 3, and then you go on those Zooms. And I really love, I'm with HarperCollins. Oh my gosh. What am I with?
The imprint.
The imprint is leadership. Sorry. Yes. Why did I not remember that? I'm with HarperCollins Leadership.
We'll edit that part.
Right. But exactly leadership. And the authors under leadership just resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
But what was great is that the editor at the time, she's not there anymore, but I loved her. And she was really sick with COVID on that interview. I was like, she still met with me.
Oh.
I was like, it's going to be sealed today. Just really believed in sharing, a woman in business story and journey. Felt the time was right to give that story.
Yep.
And really, there aren't many women in business books. Like what I've learned on my journey. So I sold it to HarperCollins, but that was, it was all like in the like 7 years prior. I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah.
It was the right time for me as someone who'd been in business for 24 years, finding for me the right agent and guiding me and a great, ghostwriter who really worked with me a lot. I took all my journal entries. We did all the interviews together, and she maybe would kill me sometimes because I would also edit, and I was more involved than someone who is using a ghostwriter because it's my story and it's my.
When it's personal, you have to put your own spin on it.
Yes. And so that was I say this to a lot of people, the fastest business deal I'd ever done in my 24 years.
Yeah, it goes fast. Once they decide,
it's amazing. So I wasn't waiting that long where I know there's other scenarios.
Yep.
And I was in just the right place that the market was looking for at the time.
Yep.
And so that's the way. But so as we did the sync and getting everything out of my brain, what we delivered to Harper's in the first round was really much more memoir than memoir biz. It had all the business in it, but they helped me edit it down into the business book.
Okay.
And which was different than I think we structured originally. So there was a huge revamp from like first to second.
Yeah.
And how it's structured now is, here's my story, here's sort of the business takes from it, and here's a checklist at each chapter at the end of what the takeaways are that apply to business, which I think was so smart.
So smart.
And not something I was thinking.
Yep, so smart. And because I love those practical like how-tos at the end. And I think it helps people, especially with talking about the calm and the chaos, helps bring that calm into the end of every chapter. And I think I'm thinking about, you were telling me before we started filming about how you have your website, and tell everybody the name of your website.
So I have two websites.
Right.
So I have boymeetsgirlusa.com, which is the brand.
Right.
And then I have the blog name is called Behind the Seams with Stacy Igel, but it's stacyigel.com is the website, but what I've called it since 2000 and I think 3 is behind the scenes. So I had a blog before blogs are blogs.
Yeah, I know. I had a blog on like Blogspot back in the day.
It was on Blogspot. It's still on Blogspot.
Okay, yeah. There you go. So
I love blogger.com.
Yeah. So and in there you kind of talk about all the behind the scenes of being a creative and being a fashion designer and all of that.
Yeah.
So this is embracing the calm and the chaos of the business side of it. But then here on this podcast, we're breaking down the behind the scenes of the book publishing, especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Yes. And I forgot to tell you, in that sell to Harper's, I remember this because they were like, you're going to need to do a deck of how you're going to sell the book.
Yeah, the marketing proposal, right?
I said, what? I said, you need me to sell my book? I go, all right, back to my business, because I've had sales reps my whole life and then not some. And then I had publicists and not some. And at the end of the day, you have to know how to sell your product.
It's so true. It's so true.
It's so true.
And I think, owning a PR agency, the authors that do the best are the ones that sell while you do the press.
Yeah.
Because I am not responsible for selling your book.
Right.
The author
is
responsible. I can get you amazing press. I can get you on all the shows. But we all know that I can't then directly say that these were sales from that.
Right.
But if you're out there doing speaking engagements and book signings, which I need to share, we have so many common friends. We just realized.
Well, because the author world becomes a whole new world.
It does.
It's
so
a beautiful.
Whole new world.
Yeah.
So our friend Zibby Owens, who I actually met her. I sent her an email because we have an amazing client of ours, Jen Drummond, who is a world record holder, single mom of 7, world record holder, who just climbed the 7-second summits.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She has this amazing book.
How many children?
She has 7 kids.
Oh my God, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay.
So
is she on the tour?
So she is not, but she is going to Zibby's bookstore.
She's going to bookstore, okay.
And so
is she doing a tour with her?
I need to look at this because we need to see it. Now I'm looking at this.
So she
needs to be on the tour.
It would be those
she's in Utah.
She's in Utah, so she's going to. Is she doing her California store? Santa Monica.
She's doing her Santa Monica one,
and she's doing it with her book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, then she's definitely on this.
Yep. Oh yeah, there we go.
The date. Oh my God, we made a shirt.
I love this. Is like perfect marketing, and I think Zibby's a perfect example. Because I know Zibby. She goes on Good Morning America. She goes on Good Day DC. All that. Zibby put one of her authors on her like roundup on TV.
Yes.
Jen's book, and so I messaged her and I said, I love what you do. Like, check out Jen's book. We sent her Jen's book. She loved it. Anyway, you brought Zibby's t-shirt.
Yes. So I said to Zibby, I went on tour, and my second place I went after Bloomingdale's for Women's History Month, which I'll talk about. I went to Zibby's bookstore that had just opened, and I said, and she had me on her podcast.
Yep.
I know that's Zibby's. That's her book.
It's called
Blank.
the Zibbyverse.
Yeah, Zibbyverse, and that's her book Blank, which is really good, and it comes out in March.
She gave it to me. I've been reading it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good. And it's her first novel. By the way, I plug Zibby, and you're plugging Zibby because she's awesome.
Because she's amazing.
She really is amazing.
You got to follow her.
Gotta follow Zibby and Zibbyverse. And so I did my book event in March with my best friend Ike Barinholtz. He interviewed me and I interviewed him, and then I brought a DJ because I've done 10 New York Fashion Week shows, and I love to bring artists together. And then I had like little cookies made by Dana's Bakery that said "Embracing the Calm and Chaos," and I had Frisky Whiskey make calm and chaos drinks. And Zibby was like, "I've never had a party like this in a bookstore." And I'm like, well, I brought basically Fashion Week to your store.
It's amazing.
And it was a party, and it was my first time being in LA since COVID for a while. So all my community who's in California and now Los Angeles came out, who I hadn't seen in years. And Ike even said, he's like, in California, it's hard to get to places in Los Angeles. And like, people don't always go, like, whether a big celebrity or not, like, don't always drive to your events. And he's like, you pack this place. And I was like, thanks, Ike.
Every book signing I see at her place is packed. It's
such a great indie bookstore that's beautifully curated, and it's just great. So that's how I launched, and she had me on her podcast prior to that and had reached out for the book, and then we just became like quick friends. Yep. And then I saw that she was doing like 100 stops on her book tour for Blank. That's right, Blank. Yeah. And I said to her, Zibby, I have to make you a tour shirt. Yeah. And she's like, yes.
Yes.
So we collaborated. I love it. It's Boy Meets Girl X Zibby.
Zibbyverse tour.
And a Zibbyverse tour.
Everybody needs a book.
You need a book tour shirt.
A book tour shirt.
Yeah.
I did a book tour.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would have loved that.
I know.
It's so iconic.
But this is 33 spots. 33 stops. So it is iconic. Like, even if you do like 15 stops, it's still worthy of one. So maybe I'm the new book tour t-shirt maker.
Yeah.
Come on over.
Yeah, come on over. Come meet Stacy and she'll make you.
My door.
I love it. So then we know Zibby, and our connection is Meredith. Right?
Meredith
Weintraub was the woman that produced me when I was on the Rachel Ray show, and I just adore her. And she's your good friend, so that's how we got connected.
Yeah, her and Ike are like my oldest friends from Chicago.
Yeah.
And
that's so funny that you're both out here now.
Yeah, and you're a Midwesterner. Yeah. Like, oh my God. And Ike's in LA. But yeah, so she told me, she's like, oh my God, I loved her on the show. She's like, you have to meet her. And then she said she sent you an email and you said, I follow her.
Yeah.
I
did. I followed you already.
I was like, this is
amazing.
This is amazing. And then, my book says how to find success in business and life through perseverance, connection and collaboration. So, and Meredith always says, I always hate it and cringe when she says it, but she's like, you really are the like connector of my like growing up and making the parties and doing these things. And I was like, I guess I am. But it was really special that like she thought of me to be on your podcast. Yeah. And I was like, Mare, like that's just like, friendships like that when we think of each other for different things, it's like really special. And that seems to happen as you build and grow and help each other.
For longer. Yeah. And I feel like good people attract good people.
That's right.
And you create connections, and it's just the way that world goes around.
Yeah, and actually with Zibby, she came to me with a group of artists or authors who started Artists Against Anti-Semitism. So she asked me to be part of it. And now there's 33 authors that are like, in this group, we raised $100,000 for Project Shema.
I have somebody for you. One of my clients would bring
her in.
Would love to be a part of it.
Yes.
One of my clients. I have the perfect author for you that's in our client base.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yes.
And so now I did an event this past January in Florida, intimate event. It was my first intimate one.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the authors came from Boca to West Palm Beach to come meet me, to support me. And it was like the most beautiful thing. She's an amazing author. I'm going to give you her name right now. Oh my God.
I love it.
I actually just wrote her in my newsletter, and I'm going to tell you in one second. I'm having a hard time memorizing names.
Yeah.
I just sort of, it goes in and out.
It's okay. I've had that problem my whole life.
But I will give it to you
in 1
Her
second.
Name is Debbie Fisher.
Debbie Fisher.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And this is what she looks like.
Oh.
Yeah, she's awesome. So anyway, so there's just these authors supporting authors.
Yeah, I have the perfect.
Which is amazing. Yes, let's bring her in.
Yes, I would love that.
Yeah.
Because we actually have, we're doing a book signing at her Santa Monica store with 2 of our clients that are both amazing female entrepreneurs and authors. We call them our Gens.
Gen Zs?
No, their both name is Jen.
I'm like, that's a new one. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
Jen Cohen and Jen Drummond are both doing a co-event
in
LA together. And so she's a connector as well.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the launch process of this.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. We have probably about 10 more minutes left. So I know
we're going to have to do part 2.
Yeah, we are going to have to do part 2.
This is so good.
So let's talk about the launch process of this. I mean, we get to, and I coin this phrase all the time on the show. It's called book PTSD, where we get to the end of the book and we want to throw up over it. We're exhausted. And then we're like, oh crap, we got to market this thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to, we're tired.
So, it's interesting. So it was the first time in my career that during the process, I wasn't promoting myself. Because, having a brand for 20 plus years, you're promoting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really amazing to sit back and be in the process and say something's coming or maybe the announcement, but not have to post all the time and do all this stuff. And it was really, really nice. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to people, I'm going through archives and I don't have to be promoting. But, going back to that deck, what we presented to Harper's on how we were going to sell or how I was going to sell my book, there was a plan in place that I actually really was excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And so the beginning of it started where I sold myself to the president of Bloomingdale's, not sold my body. So that's
a different kind of podcast.
That's a different podcast. No, I literally was you have to include me. I need to do this. Yep. I was introduced actually through an amazing woman. Well, it was a bunch of women who introduced me to Anne. Knew the president of Bloomingdale's. I used to sell to Bloomingdale's.
Okay.
For 10 years. They were doing Women's History Month at the carousel. And I was I have to, because I've been in fashion, it makes sense for me not to launch in a bookstore, but to launch in a retailer.
Yeah, I love that.
And so they were doing the celebration of designers and women designers in the carousel. And so I was but you don't have an author. Mm-hmm. And so he said, this is a great idea. So, yes, I did bring New York Fashion Week to Bloomingdale's, and they said I'm always invited back if you ever want to do a book launch there.
I love that.
59th Street. They were so excited. So I brought Sophie Algort, who's in my book, who's been a collaborator. She's a photographer, pretty much shot 15 or 20 of my campaigns. She has a company that does headshot. It's called Click House. Mm-hmm. So the first 25 people who bought the book could get her photography and get the headshot, which was off the charts. Everybody wanted it because you don't think everyone wants to change their LinkedIn,
right? Or
they don't have a place to get a headshot. Yep. Great business model.
Yep.
And so that was happening. The DJ was there, of course. I needed my DJ. Frisky Whiskey was there, but we couldn't serve whiskey.
Frisky Whiskey.
So it became Virgin Frisky Whiskeys. and then they had all the other designers. So there was a girl doing bracelets who was amazing. There's a woman from Hawaii who was selling her product. But again, it was 2 years or 3 years since my last New York Fashion Week show was 2020, which was rated top 10 New York Fashion Week shows against Marc Jacobs.
Say that again? Say that again? Top 10?
Top 10 New York Fashion Week, because Chloe Flowers was on the piano. I had hip-hop dancers. It was Boy Meets Girl.
Can I get an invitation to this next year?
The next one I do. That was 2020.
Gosh.
So it's been a few years. Yeah, you're coming.
Oh,
you're
I'm coming.
You're covering
to
it.
this.
Yes. You'll have a podcast there. You'll
yes.
books over there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
It's all your authors.
I'm putting it on my calendar now.
Exactly. 2029.
Yeah. I don't care. I'll be there.
And so this was, everyone came out.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I bet we all feel. And I know I remember Zibby was talking about this at one of our book launches together in Sag Harbor, is that feeling, and it's also what I have during New York Fashion Week, is like, who's going to come? Like, are they going to come? Are they going to come? And are they, and it's different at New York Fashion Week because they're seeing something, they don't have to buy it there, but are they going to buy my book?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to come and buy it. When I tell you, I mean, there were people like, I didn't remember who they were because they were from like New York Fashion Week events and might have covered me. And I was like, who is this? But I'm like, they came and they bought the book and they stood in line to get a signature, which, by the way, my son was there signing all the books with me and his friends. And it was really the most, and my mom came in. And yeah, it was the most magical first book launch. And it was meant to be. And I actually had, for 6 months, hired an outside publicist from Harper's that was just working with me with some of her contacts, some of my contacts. But she really was great, saying, Stace, you really need to do this in a retailer. I owe that to her more than myself, because I really was like, well, let's do it in like underground at the Soho House. And she's like, but who's going to buy books there? She was right. Because yes, I love the Soho House. I created their designs many years ago. Like, it's a great place and it's great for artists, but it really was like, you want everyone to come. Don't like make it elite. Like, bring them there. And that's what happened. She got COVID that day. She couldn't be there.
Oh, sorry.
But I was there. And my team was there. But it was amazing. So that was part of the deck, like to work with a retailer. Then you're starting to promote. Then you're like, you're on the talk shows and you do the podcast and you're lining up your socials. And it's like you said, it's like, oh, me, boom, 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 boom. Yep. But for me, I was like, okay, how do I make this different? Like, how do I tell the story in a different way than what we're seeing all of our colleagues do? And of course, you have to give it some ways the same way, but there was different elements to how I approached each event, and then went to some bookstores as well that I believe resonated with who was following me or who found out about the book. And that's how I've been leading it. And I'm still, like, it's almost a year. And I'm going to Chicago with Zibby because it's my hometown, at a bookstore there we're doing together. And it's my birthday. So, of course, I'm
Is
like...
the DJ and the whiskey coming to that one?
I got to talk to her about that because Madison Bookstore was like, TBD on location because it's based on who RSVPs. Right. Because she's going on so many things, but I know all of Chicago.
Right. So everybody might
include those two things if she allows me.
It has to. It's on brand.
It's on brand. And it's like going to be in the middle of her tour. She's going to like until September. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how she's going to do it. I'm tired for her. I'm tired thinking about it. Because I was tired for me. Yeah. And I've spaced mine out. Like March was like hardcore, and then April, and then May, and then a little in the summer. But as someone said to me as an author, and as you know this, you can always sell your book. Yep. It's up to you if you stop. Yep. Right? Yep. Which is sort of interesting. I'm like, is it still going to be on Amazon? Is it still at Barnes & Nobles? It is really up to you until maybe your publisher says there's no more in the warehouse, I guess.
Yeah, that part I don't know.
Then they order again.
Yeah, then they order a second
paperback, or
then they order a second print.
Right.
And then they say, "Oh, your book sold enough. We have a second print," and everybody celebrates.
Of course, I'm always asking, so are we going international yet? Yes. They're like, we're waiting on that, Stacy. I'm like, you sure about that?
Sure? I think we need to go to China.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
One of our clients just got his third country, and I was so excited for him. I think it's true. We are responsible for selling the book. PR is a great tool to get it out there.
It is.
And especially talk about it more and have Drew Barrymore holding it up and saying that she loved your title. I mean, what better?
What? a 10-minute, like,
yeah.
that was a really amazing teamwork. That was my publicist with me who, sent it to the producers. I sent it to her. Friends were on the show who were like, you should have Stacy on.
Mm-hmm.
It was like teamwork times a million.
That's what you got to do. You got to come at it from every angle.
You literally, someone walking down the street, have you heard about this book? Like that was
You really
got
to have this person on. You got to have this person on. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I wasn't on it. It was just her and the co-host with her.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need to be on.
Yeah.
Because
to be honest, I think sometimes that adds like a different spin to it.
It does.
Because it's not like you're promoting it. It's like, well, did you hear that Drew was talking about this book?
Right.
You gotta check it out.
Yeah, it's a different angle. Like, of course, I love like doing the talk shows and being on, but that was really, that you can tell, as you know, like which things spike sales. That definitely spiked sales on Amazon. I could see it in that minute.
Yep. That's amazing.
Yeah, she's incredible. I mean, I love her.
Yeah.
I love her.
I love her. I know. When we go back to like thinking, I love watching her when I was a kid.
I know.
She's amazing.
She is.
She is amazing. So, well, I think I love, as we wrap up here, the things that really stand out to me from this conversation are community that you've built. And that didn't start at the time you wrote the book. That started years beforehand.
It did.
And so I always share with people that the book doesn't come as the first piece.
Yeah.
Comes at the, after you've already built the community. You work on building the community, building the relationships. The book can come at that time.
Yeah.
And then build the brand after.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that, yes, there are authors who are just start being authors and they build their community from people loving their fiction book. But for me, it's so cool to see like the people from the past who really love it, and then the new community who's finding out about Boy Meets Girl.
Yeah.
Because it's not called Boy Meets Girl. It's got my logo on the front, but it's, it says embracing the calm and the chaos. So there are also this whole other new book community, like you said, like who come a little later and then learn about Boy Meets Girl.
Yep.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a whole, and I don't know if I definitely didn't write it to buy Boy Meets Girl product, although that seems silly and you should say I did do that. But I did it to tell the story to help the future entrepreneurs or the people in the midst of running a business. And like you said, like people go on, like I've been doing speaking engagements for many years with Boy Meets Girl. That has led to many more speaking engagements and helping entrepreneurs. And so in turn, though, it's been so great for Boy Meets Girl.
Yeah. Well, I think we see a trend, also in entrepreneurism and in PR and in book writing, a lot of even big companies having their C-suite executives writing books to warm the company up and not make it so corporate anymore.
Yes.
That they're having their CEOs and, writing books now to become thought leaders.
Yes.
And it brings more warm feelings to the company now.
Yes.
And so you kind of did that without knowing that you were doing that.
Right. Because part of me was like, okay, I am licensing globally now. And I'm like, I'm out of this place where I'm really proud of my brand and I'm going to continue to do that. That's why I'm going to Europe in March. It's a place to now advise and be a leader for people looking to do all these things.
Right.
But yeah, it's really a beautiful like 360 of what happens when you write a book.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, have been asking me, do they need that community, like you said? And I do think that those are the supporters who are going to come to your book launches. Yeah. It's hard. Sometimes you're in a random city and 5 people can come.
Yeah.
And there's one of the biggest authors like had 2 people at one of his things and he wrote about that, and that's very hard. So you want that even with his community, like we all need to be really cognizant of like where we're going and why we're going, because having an event is hard. So you want to really be thoughtful in how you put that together. Where are you doing? What's the timing?
Yep.
Can you get people there? Because it's you.
Yep.
It's your community. It's not necessarily like the books, even when you're doing it at a bookstore, even when you're doing it at Bloomingdale's, it's not really them pushing out.
Yeah, it's on you.
It's on you. Like, I remember Bloomingdale's was like, oh my, they had no idea what was coming their way.
It seems to be a common thread with you, Stacy.
I know.
You just bring the party.
I bring the party. Let's have a party. I
bring
like
the party,
cocktail.
Stacy. That's what I'm going to say.
I'm coming with you with lots of cocktails.
With a DJ and whiskey.
I do. I literally have it. I have a photographer, a DJ, some whiskey.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I need to get an entourage.
Some bracelet makers.
Oh my gosh.
We can bring the heat seal machines. Oh, I now have a 3D printer.
Oh my gosh.
My son is making lots of things.
Look at that. You're just
I'm ready.
You're ready.
I'm ready.
Stacy is ready.
Ready.
She can even make you t-shirts.
I'm making you tour shirts.
I love this. You are just an absolute gem.
Oh,
this has been so fun.
Oh my God, I've had the best time.
Yeah, this has been
really
so fun.
I know. I feel like I just was.
No, this is exactly what I wanted you to do.
Good.
And
okay.
I think everybody else, we want to learn how to make this work, because I see so many times, you know, we see those pictures of people at book launch parties like nobody showed up. Yeah. And we see people like, I was actually talking with somebody today who is like a huge TV producer, and he produces some of the top TV shows in the world. And he messaged me on LinkedIn and was like, Lauren, I have no idea what I'm doing. My book comes out in 2 months. Wow. My publisher has done nothing. I feel like I'm sinking. I'm like, I got you. I know what to do. I know where to go. I know how to strategize this. Yes. So many of us do that. The book, writing the book is like the first piece of the battle.
Yes.
Promoting it
is a whole other beast.
So you've given us a lot of really actionable things on the strategy behind what you did and all of that. So thank you for sharing that. A lot of people don't want to share it, which is kind of like, I'm like, you know what, we're going to share it. This should not be a secret anymore. This should
not, and my formula. First of all, my book gives you my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you underline the book, you know my contacts. You can Google them now. I mean, I didn't have that back then. You can go to their Instagram. Like,
you know her literary agent now.
you know my ghostwriter. Like, exactly. I have no, like, you know Zim. You know, like yeah. I when I wrote that, I was like, I'm giving, and I was much more protective as a designer.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never given all that.
Right.
But I just came to this point where, like, sharing is caring. I worked with Care Bears. I know I just used their words, and I didn't tell you about.
Oh yes, we got to talk about the shirt real quick. Yes,
gotta promote it. So I have launched. You're hearing it first.
Yay!
I hope I don't know.
Hearing it first on the Beyond the Cover podcast.
On the podcast.
Yeah.
Boy Meets Girl X Strawberry Shortcake, which I
can still smell the smell in my nose of strawberry shortcake dolls when I was a kid.
I wish this smelled. You know, this would be amazing. I wanted to make it smell.
That might be a little uncomfortable if people like scratch and sniff.
Yeah. I don't think I could do that. But it would be really, you're like, no,
like, that's a little
like a little BO with that.
Yeah, not good.
But I was cleaning my childhood home out because we were selling my childhood home. And this is like a year ago. And my sister and I found all these pictures. I took pictures with my camera of the pictures because they weren't like on film or anything. And some of the team from Care Bears moved over to Strawberry and called me because I didn't talk to you about my Paris trip, but it's in my book about 2017, the windows next to Gucci, but okay, we'll come back to that. And so they called and said, we're doing this project for Strawberry Shortcake. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I think I just shot a photo of me holding my doll.
That was my favorite doll growing up.
And so I have it. And you will be seeing it on my socials. Talk about promotions. You want to see it?
Yes. Nobody else can see it.
No one else can see it, but you can see it.
Yes. It was my favorite doll, and I smelled the head of it because
you're gonna love this. That's going on my socials.
That was the doll I had.
That's the doll. But look at this guy. This is.
I had the bigger one that was like squishy too.
That's the big one. Me holding it.
Oh.
Do you like that 70s couch? I was.
You're so happy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had that doll too.
Yes.
I had that too.
Is that crazy?
And you know what? There was like Cabbage Patch dolls. You know what?
Patch.
My parents didn't have enough money. Just, you know, as we wrap up,
these were
expensive.
Yes.
Well, my parents didn't have that much money back when the Cabbage Patch. So my mom made me one, and I still have it.
That's amazing.
I have a homemade Cabbage Patch doll.
I remember the homemade
Cabbage. She had like a pattern of it, and so I still have it.
That's incredible.
My mom, and that means more to me than anything else.
Right?
Yeah, my strawberry shortcake. I mean, I can like still smell it.
You are getting. I'll send you a hoodie.
Oh my gosh, my life is complete
with a little like special collectible. Oh my God!
This is the
for
best.
For you, Oprah.
Thank you. I'm so excited. This is amazing. So everybody go check out her book, Embracing Calm in the Chaos.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.